morning, and thanks for joining us here on The Real Story. I'm Emma Wulfhorst. Donald Trump will be the next president of the United States, becoming only the second to serve a non-consecutive presidential term. The first was Grover Cleveland back in 1885 and 1893. That's not his only first, though. He's also now the oldest elected president, the first criminally convicted president, and the first twice impeached. While final results are still being tallied as we tape this, we know we've seen almost all regions across the nation go more right for former president and now President-elect Trump. Vice President Kamala Harris conceded the day after the election, ending her historic campaign, while the country did not elect its first female president, despite her overwhelming fundraising success in just over 100 days. This election day did mark 50 years since Connecticut elected the first woman governor in our state. She was also the first woman governor in the country who hadn't gotten into office being married to a former governor. Ella Grasso is known for many things, but perhaps best known for this famous quote: "It is not enough to profess faith in the democratic process. We must do something about it." A good reminder this morning, and quite historic in Connecticut politics. Speaking of legacies here, every one of Connecticut's U.S. House representatives was reelected. Many have been there since the early 2000s. The most freshman of the bunch, former Waterbury teacher Johanna Hayes, once again had a close race, but won with more of a margin against Republican George Logan than she did back in 2022. And Connecticut Senator Chris Murphy had his race called fairly early on in the night. The Democrat won re-election, but Republicans did flip enough seats in the Senate to take control of power there. At the time of taping this, we do not know yet what party control of the U.S. House will look like, but with a newly red Senate and Oval Office, Connecticut residents and leaders alike are worried about what federal laws could challenge or change the state laws and rights here in Connecticut. That push and pull of state and federal laws is constant, especially when we're looking at such different agendas when it comes to areas like health care, from abortions to gender-affirming care.
We've seen what they've done. We know what they want to do, and we know the impact it will have, even in a state like Connecticut, where our legal rights are now secure.
Community health care advocates here have remained concerned about Connecticut's laws and protections being repealed or overwritten by federal bans.
So a federal ban on gender-affirming care would trump state laws. There's no getting around that at all.
We've seen the dangers of the states being in control of reproductive rights and people's ability to make their own healthcare decisions.
Nobody invites the federal government, or the state government for that matter, into their doctor's appointments. Just let us work with trained medical professionals.
From gender-affirming healthcare to reproductive rights, they've started to see a domino effect. Healthcare providers confused and fearful, even fewer people entering the field because of policy threats, and more patients having to cross into Connecticut or move altogether.
My daughter's college applications were due this past Friday, and there are literally 28 states that she can't go to. Now, I'd like for everybody to take a moment and think about that this is an American citizen who cannot travel to go to college in 28 different states. That is limiting educational and economic opportunity for trans kids entering college. And, more broadly, it's leading to these policies that are literally killing people. That is not hyperbole. In some of these states, suicide attempts increased by 72%.
Patients shouldn't have to leave their own communities. People shouldn't have to leave their home states to access essential, sometimes life-saving care. What we are seeing across this country are preventable deaths occurring. We've seen, threats to IVF so that people can't access the healthcare they need to plan their families and build their families.
Planned Parenthood and OBGYN providers in general are drawing attention to the Project 2025 Conservative Transition Plan. Donald Trump hasn't endorsed it, but many of his closest advisors and planned aides authored it. It includes echoes of sweeping cuts to insurance coverage for even basic non-abortion appointments.
The agenda is outlined right there, where they want to allow the government our government to monitor people's pregnancies and potentially prosecute them if they miscarry. The plan is laid out. They have told us what they are going to do: deny workers from getting birth control, restrict federal funding for essential healthcare providers like Planned Parenthood, defund Planned Parenthood from the Medicaid program. We are proud that Connecticut continues to lead, in the fight for reproductive freedom. We need to do everything in our power to keep it that way.
Despite Connecticut's legal rights and overwhelming voter support of progressive healthcare protections, the rhetoric of national campaigns hasn't been lost here.
At the state level, there are some pretty frightening candidates out there that are running on a completely anti-transgender platform.
State capitol candidates this election weaponized pronoun use and unsubstantiated rumors of indoctrination in schools, even showing dramatic photos of adult transgender surgeries to residents, falsely claiming they were children.
Bottom surgeries don't even take place on youth. Close to $100 million is being spent in the last few weeks here on these anti-trans ads. Voters over and over have said this is the bottom of their concern list. They want to be hearing about gas prices, the economy. In 2022, more than 70% of the candidates that ran on an anti-transgender platform lost their elections. I think it's a path to losing and maintaining my rights as a parent. On the other hand, you have all this dangerous, harmful rhetoric playing every 5 minutes. It's really damaging to the community. If you're going to share information on a subject with which you have no lived experience, maybe talk to somebody with that lived experience. We spent 2 years trying to keep our youngest child alive because of what was happening. Equity in this area, access to healthcare, access to an equitable education, all of these things save children's lives.
Now, like we said before, as of taping this, we don't know the party in power in the U.S. House yet, but Republicans had massive federal successes this election, from Donald Trump to now a Senate majority. I caught up with Connecticut Senator Chris Murphy about the job he has ahead when it comes to representing Connecticut precedents and priorities.
Obviously, I will work with President Trump wherever we have overlap that helps Connecticut, but I think those will be pretty small areas of overlap. So just as I did in his first term, it's likely that I'll end up helping to lead the fight against the policies that he supports that will hurt Connecticut. But as always, if there's opportunities to reach across the aisle, I'll do it. What's discouraging is that typically when Republicans are in charge in Washington, they don't actively look for bipartisan successes. Republicans can pretend that fetal personhood isn't a national abortion ban, but it is. So if they pass a federal law that says a fetus is a person and every abortion is an equivalent to murder, then not only is that a national abortion ban, but it will actually potentially obliterate families' ability to get access to IVF treatment. I am very worried that Trump is serious when he says that he is going to be a dictator on day one. I mean, I don't think it's outside of the realm of possibility that this Department of Justice is going to be hunting his political enemies. My role is different depending on whether democracy is disintegrating. I just don't know whether we're going to be in a normal political environment or a very abnormal, very dangerous political environment. Trump's values aren't Connecticut values, and so I'm just going to go to the Senate and fight like hell for the things that Connecticut cares about, and see if we can find areas of common agreement, try to stop him when he's doing things that are particularly dangerous, and get ready for the next election.
And we did speak with Attorney General William Tong at length as well, not just about the legal prep for election sanctity, but now the legal battle for state laws that already are frequently challenged.
Nobody should think that just because we have strong laws here in Connecticut that we should be any less vigilant and any less in the fight. I'm very much in that fight.
And you can find our entire conversation with Attorney General Tong, Senator Murphy, and other lawmakers online and on the Fox 61 News app. We're going to take a quick break, but don't go anywhere here. We have post-election perspective from leaders in our state capital ahead of the quickly approaching budget session. Next.